Meeting's called to order. Welcome to the committee as a whole for Human Resources and Education Committee for Thursday, December 5th, 2024. Ms. Coker, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Peterson?
Here.
Mr. Green? Ms. Hanson? Ms. Rutherford? Ms. Fauntleroy? Mr. Harrell? Ms. Martin? Ms. Moore? Ms. Baker? Ms. McCullum? Ms. Lamy? Ms. Hurstis? Mr. Burrow. Here. Mr. Kuzan. Ms. Rufino Gallagher.
All right, we've already done the invocation and the pledge, so we'll continue on. Are there any other visitors that weren't recognized at the earlier meeting that any board members would like to recognize? All right. So at this time, we need to approve the minutes for the committee as a whole meeting held on November 7th, 2024. Do I have a motion? Ms. Moore, second. Ms. Gallagher. All right. Any comments from the public? Questions from the board? Everyone, please vote.
Yes.
Okay.
Ms. Baker.
I vote yes, but I've lost myself. And then Grace, just vote me yes.
Got it.
Motion passes unanimously. At this time, we'll have the report from Human Resources. Mr. Alfonso.
Thank you, Dr. Peterson, Superintendent Jabby, and Board. After the first of the year, we start projections at each school. They will begin January 9th. All of our administrators have the information needed to begin staffing for the 25-26 school year. HR will then meet with C&I and the SWE department to facilitate the needs of their departments. So we go to each school, project regular ed there, and we come back and meet with each department to basically facilitate their entire master schedule. All this information will be used to organize and facilitate both transfer fair and job fair. By the way, transfer fair is March 15th. Job fair will be May 10th. Both are at Fontainebleau High. I have numbers for you, vacancy numbers. If you're interested, please ask. But I just want to give a shout out to our sub department. They're doing 4 sub sign-ups a week, at least 2, almost 4 a week. We have 1,164 teacher substitutes and 1,308 overall subs, so it's every job class. Teach St. Tammany application is open. Dr. Tillman is here. Our program with Teach St. Tammany currently is being evaluated by it's through LDOE, but by an outside agency. So we're going through that process tomorrow. We're wrapping it up tomorrow, and Dr. Tillman has spearheaded that. So thank him for that work. Open enrollment for our employee benefits has closed, and all went well. I just got to thank the insurance ladies, Renee Mothershed and her staff. You'd be amazed. I walked in Renee's office, and they work all day and it's almost like receptionists, just constant phone calls. And I walked in her office at 8 o'clock the day after open enrollment ended, and she had 82 messages just overnight. And she diligently sat there and went through each message. And I'm saying that about Renee because that's who I was speaking to, but every one of those ladies get that amount of calls, so thank them very much. All of our HR staff has been trained and are currently using our new fingerprint system. I know we brought to you and you guys approved for us to buy 4 new workstations through our security budget that you guys approved. The workstations have been installed and our staff has been trained and we're using it. So thank you guys for it, and I'm here for any questions.
So I know, at least for high school, this will be a different year if we're going to this block schedule. So how are we going to change the projections to know, I know there's an extra class added to every high school this year. I don't know if it'll be, if we don't have the Discovery Center up, obviously nobody's building that in a day, if that gets approved. But how are we going to figure that out as far as, are we going to have students going to, welding, if they don't offer it at Pearl River High School, let's say, are we going to coordinate that extra teachers will be at Pearl River, so we'll send more kids over there? Is that being considered?
I'm glad you asked that. Dr. Langlois and I met with the high school staff. What day was that? This week, Tuesday. Tuesday, we met with the high school staff, and the superintendent actually told me to slow my roll with the high school staff till this is all figured out. So we're going to make sure that if there's a change made, that they'll be adequately staffed. So right now, the plan is to slow down with high schools, get it all figured out. Don't mess with their staff right now until we have everything in place.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Fauntleroy?
So would we anticipate needing more staff on a block schedule?
No, ma'am.
Okay, and when you did staffing, or I know we're looking at ways to save money, are we still staffing at the same ratio, pupil-teacher ratio?
Yes, we are. Yes, we
Okay.
are. We-
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Fauntleroy. Mr. Bro? It's not, okay.
Thank you. You mentioned 1,160 substitutes. That's great news. How many permanent teacher vacancies do we still have?
Well, right now, I counted today before we came, and it's about 34, it's about 34, but granted, we just got a bunch within the last 2 weeks. They go directly to George. We just got a few this week because of the semester. So the principals are working diligently to fill those jobs. So we got a few that kind of skewed it right now, but right now we're averaging about 18 before this influx,
18 what?
vacancies. That's how many currently we have.
That's tremendously low by historic comparison.
Well, actually, we have 34 is historically low right now. So we
Right,
34
I
because of
remember
the
last
semester.
year we started with 90. I think this year we started with 60 or so.
Yeah.
And we're down to only
We were in the
30,
six-
30 and possibly 18
Yes,
vacancies.
yes, sir. We were in the 60s at this time of the year last year.
We probably can hold off on hiring subs, with
Well,
1,100 subs and
well,
not that many vacancies
Well, the problem
anymore.
with subs, and as you would know, the problem with subs is it's kind
Yeah,
of specialized.
it's
They
hit
go
and
in
miss, yeah.
segmented areas and
Right,
they
right,
go
I
where they,
understand.
you can't control where you put them.
Yes,
Basically.
we need our subs.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rowe. Ms. Hurstis?
On those subs, you said we have 1,100. How many are always staffed?
Well, that's what's active. So Megan Hurst just pulled the active list for them. So right now, we have 1,164 teacher active substitutes. That's across the whole parish.
Okay, so we always have 1,100 subs active?
Available. Yes,
Oh,
ma'am.
available.
Available to sub.
But how many are like on a, like, just an average, like daily? How many are like staffed
We-
and
we-
always?
I can just
But
tell,
I
I can tell you.
No,
tell
but
you
just
this.
like always staffed and
Well, I can
always
tell you this,
working.
without teacher without absences on a campus, we always hover around an 80 to 82% fill rate. So that means if absences that are out there, we fill it with 80% of our subs available are filling those positions.
I want to know how many subs, numbers, how many out of like 1,100? That's what I want to know. How
On an
many
average
subs
day,
are
how
out
many
there?
subs are working?
You'd have to see how on average day, how many people are out. I have to pull absences, I have to pull all that. It
But
depends on the
I'm just
time.
wanting to know a number out of 1,100 subs. How many are working out of 1,100 subs?
I can't tell you that because I don't know how many absences they have that day. That's what I can tell you. So we have 1,100 active that's available to work. but it
Right.
depends
So
upon
how many
teacher
of those are working?
Well, it depends upon teacher absences. I can't tell you that. It depends on how many absences we have that day.
So,
I know,
so-
but just in an average. I'm just wanting to know in an average.
Well, I'd have to pull a random list of absences for like a period of time and then take an average, and I can get that to you.
Yeah, because I'm just curious to see what kind of, how many absences, absences, is that even a word? How do you say that? Absentees?
Absences.
Absences that we have, in our teachers and how many substitutes. I'm just seeing like, payroll wise, how many substitutes we keep active out of the 1,100.
Well, I can tell you
Okay,
this,
it-
part of the active.
How many we keep staffed all the
Yeah,
time?
part of the active thing, we purged the list this year, so
Yeah.
it's down a lot, because if a substitute over the course of a year doesn't substitute at least 9 times, we
Yeah.
they purged off the list. So it's purged this year. But I can get you a number, I'll pull.
Yeah,
I'll
I'd like to have
randomly
just
pull
some
I'll
numbers.
pull some days and just do some absences and get fill rates and give them.
Yeah, that'd be
all right.
great.
Thank you, Mr. Ellis.
Thanks.
So we have Ms. Fauntleroy has one question, please.
Yeah, since y'all took away my question, in the other meeting, I get 2 this round. Just a follow-up, Dr. Langlois. I haven't sat and written it all down, but it's my understanding in a block schedule, a teacher gets a planning period in each semester.
Correct.
So that means you have to come up with more people to cover that same amount of students. It just doesn't seem like it would be possible to not need more teachers to staff a block schedule.
So just like now, they get a planning period at least one every semester. That's not changing. So you still
Right,
have,
but they're teaching,
We're not on the agenda.
I mean, there's only 3 other classes going on
but think of it
instead
like,
of 8.
think of it but think of it, it's length of time. So think, from 8 to 9 o'clock, you have kids everywhere, somewhere. That's still gonna happen, but just instead of from 8 to 9, it's 8 to 9:30. But it's still,
I want you to think about something. When you have 300 freshmen that need English 1, only 150 of those kids are going to take English 1 first semester, and 150 of those kids are going to take it second semester. So you only have to educate 150 kids, half of that group. So you need half the sections. So we're actually going to teach 6 full credits a year. Right now, they teach 5.5 because they have 2 plan periods one semester and 1 the second. So we're actually getting a half a credit more out of every teacher that will be employed at a high school. So there is no added personnel needed because we're teaching whole period blocks, not semesters.
Okay,
So
well,
that-
just to reference that Google AI you were talking about, Google AI says it's more efficient, that school districts save money by being on a 7-period day versus a block schedule. So seems to me that, it would require more teachers to staff to teach 8
Yes.
credits of classes.
If those teachers were to work more periods a day or less periods a day, it will really depend on that. That doesn't say how many people are going to work per day. At Live Oak High School, teachers get 1 plan period. They're on an AB block. They get 1 plan period. So every other day, they don't get a plan period. So it kind of depends on how you work that section.
Okay.
every simulation that we have run and every district has indicated there will be no impact.
All right. No more questions? Ms. Rutherford?
Yeah, that was kind of like my question. It is, like right now you have in the high schools, the teachers have one planning period the first half, and the second period they may have 2 planning periods off. How is that going to be effective in the block schedule? Are they going to still have that 1 planning period off? Or are they going to have 2 planning periods off?
They will get 1 planning period both semesters. So they will teach 3 classes and have 1
96
period
minutes.
off in the fall, and
Okay.
they'll have 1 planning
Right.
period and 3 classes in the spring.
So 96 minutes they're going to have off every day.
Correct. And if we end up doing like a leadership, period, it could be 90 minutes, but 90 to 96 minutes every
Okay.
day. Yes, ma'am.
And then our elementary school teachers at 30.
It is a different model.
That is a shame.
They don't have bucks.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms.
I'm
Rutherford.
not happy with that.
All right. Any other questions from the board? All right. At this time, Mr. Alfonso, if you'll continue with the monthly transportation report.
Yes, sir. Thank you all again. The monthly transportation report is on board docs before you. Mr. Burmaster is here to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board regarding transportation? Thank you, Mr. Alfonso. Please continue.
Yes,
The
sir.
monthly risk management report.
Yes, sir. Thank you. The monthly risk management report is here, and Mr. Davis is here to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board members in regard to monthly risk management? All right. None? Having none, move on to the instruction of students with exceptionalities. The SWE update, Ms. Gardner, please.
Good evening, Chairman Peterson, Superintendent Jabby, and Board. Our adaptive PE department recently put on the annual Unified Bocce Games, where exceptional students and typical peers from our area high schools come together in a friendly competition. As always, the APE department, led by Ashley Marcianti, did an incredible job organizing the event. Please watch this short video, beautifully shot by Channel 13 team, which encapsulates the spirit of the United Bocce Games.
Let the games begin.
This is an event we put on every year. It's the bocce ball event. We do it for all the SWE kids. And it's where you have a couple of your more outgoing athletes come out and they buddy up with one of the SWE kids here, come in and play bocce ball with them.
It is very important for me and my peers to participate in the bocce ball games because it just brings a smile to the kids' faces.
We're unlike other school systems. We're one few that do these things that showcase our sweet students. So we want to keep doing that, and our community is all a part of this. And they sponsor it. They provide help, support, whatever we might need. And St. Tammany Parish is just a great community that embraces students and have exceptionalities and looks to hire them, put them in situations where they'll flourish, and just give them the opportunity to be included. So it's all about our kids being included in everything they do.
It's huge for them. It's absolutely amazing. It's great seeing them laugh, smile, and be able to talk to people that they don't usually talk to, you know, different schools and all that. And, you know, they don't get to do like the sports and stuff like that aspect, so this is great for them.
Just getting a chance to get out here and just show off to their typical peers, to their classmates, to just their friends, exactly what they're capable of doing, and getting out here and having a good time and enjoying this beautiful weather. And it's an experience that you can't capture in the classroom. It's got to be done in a situation like this, and that we're able to offer that situation to our kids is just tremendous.
Thank you, Ms. Gardner.
So my next one. This week, we celebrated Sweet Educator Day. I would like to start by taking a moment to thank our sweet educators. Our sweet staff, teachers, service providers, paras, clerks, coordinators, assistant directors, and Director Carrie Sue have worked diligently to ensure the growth and success of our students. It is the work of this group of individuals that directly contributed to the impact that will be shared tonight. To highlight one major accomplishment, the St. Tammany Sweet Department performance score was the highest amongst all districts with similar populations.
That's awesome.
We grew 3.1 last year and another 5.5 points this year. I cannot thank the Sweet Department enough for their dedication to our students and families. And Ms. Langlois will share some more information.
Thank you so much, Ms. Gardner. Leadership matters. It does. Any questions from the board? All right. Well, thank you so much, Ms. Gardner. At this time, we'll go on to the next item on the agenda, which is the accountability updates for 23-24 district performance scores. Ms. Langlois, Dr. Langlois, thank you.
Good evening, Chairman Peterson, members of the board, Mr. Jabbia. I am excited. Last week, we had a little preview of our results, and Ms. Gardner just gave amazing news. So I am excited to give you some more fantastic results. The model, just to remind everybody, the current accountability model that we're in this year, as well as this current year, and what we're reporting is the model where the majority of the score for elementary and middle schools comes from the LEAP assessment. 65 to 70% is based on how students perform on the LEAP, and then the other 25% is about their growth on that LEAP assessment. And then you have the metric of what's called interest and opportunities. And then our junior highs have the dropout credit accumulation. What that is it's based off the number of credits a student earns at the end of their freshman year. Our high schools kind of have a little bit of a quadrant of a four-quarter model where you have 25% coming from the LEAP assessment. Half is how the students perform on it. The other half is how they grow. You've got another quarter coming from ACT and work keys, which, as you remember, we rocked it out. We're number one, as Ms. Baker said at the beginning of the meeting. You have another 25% the strength of diploma. And then you have our graduation rate, which is right under at 20% because you have that 5% of interest and opportunities. And so this just shows our longitudinal. If you remember last week, I said, not only did we grow, tremendously, we grew 3 points. We are the highest that we have been since the implementation of this accountability model. We have consistently outperformed the state, and we've been showing academic gains. And I just cannot say enough. Ms. Hart talked earlier about, it takes everyone, and it's the unseen work that goes on behind the scenes. Mr. Alfonso just talked about we have less than 20 vacancies. It is the work of this entire district that has allowed this to happen. When Mr. Jabbia, released his reorganization plan. A big part of that was about getting in schools, supporting schools. He created the mechanism that allowed us, our curriculum instruction team, to be in the schools, working alongside our principals and our administrators to support them. We have an unbelievable team of curriculum specialists. We have a fantastic team of instructional coaches, behavior coaches, interventionists, and we work in tandem for one goal, and that is for our students. And it is evident in this work. Our teachers collaborate regularly in a professional learning community. That work has been pivotal. Our schools have implemented instructional leadership teams where they are looking at data, they are looking at student work, they are looking at trends and trying to figure out what is needed to help move the needle for our students. And again, it is working. Our curriculum, there was a lot of kind of back and forth. We really have gotten to a place where our teachers know that what they have in front of them is staying and they are using it, and we're still working to support them on making that implementation even better. And all the components, not only did we grow overall, all the components of that district performance score, we increased every single metric, which is a huge feat. Ms. Gardner just talked about our, SWE population. If you were to consider all of our SWE students in the district as a school, their performance score grew over 5 points. That is unbelievable. So we gotta say. And I'm going to let Ms. Gardner talk about her individual metrics.
Thank you, Ms. Langlois.
Thank you, Melissa.
Ms. Gardner?
So as you can see, the SWE department grew significantly in all indices, especially the grad rate. This means we graduated almost 14% more SWE students in 4 years. This was one of our wildly important goals this year. We realized the assessment index declined by 0.5%, which we will continue to focus on. However, in the SWE department, student progress continues to be our top priority. So again, I have to end with saying thank you to our SWE educators, because this would not be possible without them to have this amount of growth.
Thank you. Do you have any questions or comments by the board?
They're not done.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I just did it.
I apologize.
A number of our schools have also received some special recognitions as top gains and opportunity honorees. This special recognition of top gains honors excellence. It recognizes the schools that are seeing growth in their students. We talked about the progress. That is actually growth from one year to the next. Over 30 St. Tammany Parish Public Schools were recognized, and that's up from 29 last year. 25 of these 30 schools were on this same list 2 years consecutively. And of those, for the third year in a row, we have 22 schools that have been recognized as top gains. 14 schools have been recognized as opportunity honorees. These schools are recognized for excelling in educating students with exceptionalities, English language learners, and economically disadvantaged students. 11 of these 14 schools have been on the list for 2 years in a row, and 7 have earned this recognition 3 years consecutively. Twelve of our schools hold the distinction of being on both the top gains and the opportunity honorees. 9 of these 12 schools have been on this list for 2 years back to back, and 6 of our schools for the 3rd consecutive year. When comparing St. Tammany's percent proficient, that's mastery and above, to other districts in the greater metropolitan areas for grades 3 through high school, we continue to perform very well. Of the 7 districts compared, St. Tammany is tied for second with 46%. In comparing St. Tammany to other large districts, and that's districts enrolling more than 25,000 students, we continue to have the highest percent of students scoring advanced and mastery. And when comparing St. Tammany's percent mastery and above to the state, we currently rank 6th overall. St. Tammany students are outperforming the state average in all 4 content areas. Many St. Tammany Parish grade level content areas rank in the top 10 of the state. St. Tammany Parish students rank number 1 in 6th grade English language arts. They rank 2nd in 6th grade math and science. They rank 3rd in 3rd grade English language arts, 5th in 3rd grade science, 8th grade English language arts and science. We rank 6th in 4th grade ELA and science and 5th grade ELA. We rank 7th in 7th grade math and high school U.S. history. We rank 8th in 7th grade ELA and high school biology, and 9th in 3rd grade math. To say that this district has accomplished so much and continues to perform well, we are doing that, and we are seeing the growth and the gains, just as Dr. Langlois described, in all the work that our whole team has been doing, but especially we attribute that to our students, our parents, our teachers, and administrators.
So a few more just comparisons with the state. So each of those metrics, we look at our assessment index. For the last 3 years, we have consistently grown and we have consistently outperformed the state. This year alone, we are over 12 points higher than the state performance on assessment index. And again, that is how our students perform on the test. That is, if students score advanced, mastery, or basic, you get a certain amount of points for that and they turn it into an index. The progress is measured by growing kids. And if you can notice, 2 years prior, we were making gains, but we were kind of in line with the state. But we really, had that growth that the state maintained their progress, but we grew this past year, which again, meet kids where they are. Let's just help every kid grow every day. That's been our mission, that's been our goal, and our schools are rising to the challenge. Strength of diploma. This metric is really about the quality of a diploma. This is about a student graduating high school, not just with a diploma, but more, an industry-based credential, college credit hours. So that's how this measures. Last year, we did have a little bit of a drop, but we rebounded and we popped back, and we not only are outperforming the state, we had substantial growth. Graduation rate. I mentioned this last week when we talked, and this is one of the big reasons why we're looking, at the schedule changes that we are in our high school. While our graduation rate did grow, we have been steadily lower than the state. And that's something that we take very seriously. We know our students, and this number, this percentage is about the percentage of kids graduating in 4 years. And there's things that we have been doing to work on this. We've been doing strategic scheduling. We have been doing support classes for our students. We have been really looking at our exit codes when students leave us and making sure that data is clean when we submit it to the state. But we know there's more to be done, and we are absolutely on top of that, and our high schools are unbelievably committed to growing this number. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I just need to get my head straight. So this is not saying that St. Tammany Parish School only graduates a little above 8 out of 10 children.
Correct.
We're saying that 2 out of 10 may need a little longer.
Correct.
And they ultimately do leave us with a diploma of some sort. They may need the grace of time.
Yes, ma'am. They may take a little longer.
But the state doesn't like that.
This number only represents that when you enter as a freshman, you have
Cohort.
4 years to graduate, and as a cohort. And that if you do or do not graduate in 4 years, you're absolutely right. We have many, many students that need just a little bit more time because they need to retake a class.
I just
and they
want the
stumble.
public to understand that we are not.
And Melissa, also maybe talk about, there's other factors in that time they start as a freshman, that if I'll go ahead and say it. If the codes, the exit codes don't match, if they drop to a non-approved homeschool, if they just disappear, if we can't find them by the time they graduate, we get a 0. They count as a non-graduate. So there are many factors that play into this number. Unfortunately, we have students, especially our EL students, that disappear all the time. We can't find them because no other system picks them up. So we don't know where they go. If they go to a non-approved homeschool and they don't get captured by the state organization, a state group, we lose that student. So there's factors that play in. Yes, graduation and them not obtaining graduation credentials within 4 years is a factor, but there's also other factors that are outside of school districts' control that make that number look quite differently, because it's from the first day they step onto a high school campus 4 years ago to the time they walk across the stage. If they disappear in that time frame, it's a zero. No matter what we do, it's a zero.
And like Mr. Javi said, if they withdraw and go to a program that is not recognized by the state, that counts as a dropout for the high school. So it has nothing to do with the experience that the high school was providing. They're just no longer on that campus, and it doesn't meet the coding requirements as a legitimate leaver. So therefore, it negatively impacts that graduation rate. So there's a lot of things that are really in that number, and each single factor our high schools study and really try to make sure that they are being responsive to that data. Yes, ma'am. Thank you for
So
bringing that up.
this is like a Bessie thing that does this? Is this what it is? Okay. So does it pick it up if, like, say I move to Florida, since it's not in Louisiana, or are we getting a zero for those kids too?
It depends. So if they go to an accredited school
Right.
and we get a request for records from that school, then we're fine. But if they say they're, and we never can prove that they go there, then it
So if they
negatively
started as a
impacts.
freshman with us, left and went, and just started over as a freshman the next year, we're getting a zero for that kid in 4 years.
If we don't have proof that they re-enrolled somewhere else.
Okay.
Yep,
Thank you.
yeah.
Just for the sake of the length of your presentation, I wish you'd just go on, because I know
Yep.
you've got quite a few pages here to
I know.
go over. Thank you.
Thank you. So I mentioned last week, yes, ACT Composite, we are first in the state, which is, we are so proud of. And I have to talk about, we have an ACT committee. Our district ACT committee consists of teachers, our curriculum instruction team, curriculum specialists. We have Kim Kent from Lakeshore High School. We have Kelly Ryan from North Shore High School. We have Laura Link from Mandeville High School. We have Melissa Cephalou from Covington High School. We have our curriculum specialists, Shannon Leger, Lisa Salas, Lauren Rodas, Amy Burkell, Jan Latino, Kay McInnes. They work with our high school curriculum instruction team, and they set a goal to not only grow the composite, but to grow the ACT index. And they blew both out of the water. And I have to speak to their work. They are tenacious when it comes to making a difference for kids, and it's unbelievable the work that they do. And I'm incredibly proud of this result. And you may have seen it on Facebook, but when you look at traditional public schools, so if you take out charter, selective admission, magnet, schools of that nature, Mandeville High has the #1 highest ACT composite, and North Shore has the #3 highest in the state. And just a few more little accolades. She's here, Miss Liza Jacobs of Salmon High School. Her school grew the most of any school in our district at over 10 points. We had 6 schools that grew between 5 and 9 points, and we also have Miss Venetia from Covington High is here with us. We have Miss Brondum here from Mandeville High here with us, so I just want to say a little shout out. Mandeville Elementary, Fountainville Junior, just the growth is unbelievable. We also had several schools that grew just under 5 points, between 3 and just under 5 points. Again, we have Miss Abby McMurdo from North Shore High School, Robin Herliska from Pearl River. Just want to, again, shout out. It's just unbelievable the growth that our schools saw. And we had 7 schools that improved a letter grade. So grew, but also grew a letter grade. So just want to. And so as I kind of wrap up our results from this year, this current school year will be our last year under that model, under that accountability framework. And so starting in 25-26, which will be next school year, the state is implementing there what they call the Grow, Achieve, and Thrive model. And in their, design, it is designed to represent higher expectations. It is designed to be a little bit more simple and transparent, because a lot of the metrics are just percentage of students that are scoring a certain versus an index that we currently have. And it measures college and career readiness. And the definition that the Board of Regents and Bessie have agreed upon for what defines college and career readiness is essentially this. A college readiness means you are ready to go into college without needing remediation or prerequisite, they call it co-requisite support. Career readiness is being ready when you graduate high school to go directly into the workforce. And so the metrics for that model are represented here. Elementary and middles, it is from LEAP. 46% will be how our students, the percent of students being mastery and above in all 4 core content areas: ELA, math, science, and social studies. A little over half, 54%, will come from our students growing in ELA and math. It'll be all students growing. It'll also be our lowest performing 25% of students growing, and then our English language learners percentage of students growing. So that will make up that score. For high schools, those 2 metrics, only the growth and the achieve, will make up 75% of a high school performance score. The other 25% comes from what they refer to as the Thrive metric. So that includes, so you have 3 components in that Thrive metric. That 25% is broken up into thirds. Graduation rate that we just talked about. You have the accelerators that we just talked about. And then you also have, the percentage of students scoring a particular score on national tests, ACT, SAT, things of that nature. ASVAB, okay? That was like CLT. It just doesn't quite roll off the tongue. I have to look at my notes on that one. Work keys, gold, those are the things. So this is what's coming in 25, 26. It is a big shift, but I'll say this. You just saw the growth that our schools are making. We got this. If our schools, our teachers, our students, our families put their mind to it, there's nothing that we can't. And so it'll be a baseline year, and whatever it is, that's where we start, and I promise you we will grow every year after that. So I'm excited about what's to come. And that concludes my presentation. So I have more questions if you do.
Thank you. Before we start the questions, I have a comment I want to make. First of all, Ms. Langlois and Ms. Gardner, I want to tell you that congratulations to your staff, to the teachers and the principals in this district, our superintendent. It takes a team effort, and it's obviously a lot of work that has been done by our students. And I really, really want to point to the fact that I appreciate most your attention to all of the academic components, measurements that go into this, and your obviously your grasp of that is very good. And because you guys are on your game and you're on top of what you're doing and it flows down, I said earlier, leadership matters because good things flow. And I think you're doing a great job with your teams. And I just wanted to mention that because you might not hear it often enough, but thank you. Now, do you have any board members that you would like to ask questions, please? Ms. Gallagher?
Hey, thank you, Dr. Pearson, Dr. Langlois. So kudos to everybody. Obviously, the whole district has done phenomenal. No doubt about that. So I do have a question on the Thrive part of this new model, which is similar to before, but is the rate of the, it's got the show readiness on a nationally recognized exam. I know at some point it goes against this, if I'm not mistaken, like if my daughter just doesn't want to take the ACT, like she's on the career pathway, an ACT is not necessary for her. Are we getting dinged in that category, or is the national recognized exam readiness only of the kids who are actually take the exam?
No, it is the whole senior class. It will take the percentage of students, but what they did is they added work keys. So if you're more, on the career path, work keys is, it's in the ACT suite of assessments. Okay. And so that metric, so in this new model, in the current model, you start getting points in the index for a score of 18 on the ACT or silver on the work keys. In this new model, it only starts getting recognized in that percentage if you score a 20 on the ACT or a gold on the ACT. So it is a percent. So if you have a 19, it's not showing up in this number, at all. If you're a silver, so it's simple and transparent, but it's also a hard line, and it is what it is. So that was, we could share those concerns because what about the student that, because under the accelerator, the university, it still keeps that requirement of having to have a 20 on the ACT and college credit. Well, what if I'm a student that, has a 19 on the ACT, but I take an AP course and I score 5? That won't show up in that percentage because I am 1 point away on one metric, but I still earned college credit. So there's some things, and we're talking about some ways to make sure that the success and recognition of our students still gets known, even if it's hidden in this model.
Okay.
Thank you for asking. That's a great question.
Questions? Ms. Fauntleroy?
Thank you. Congratulations to everyone. Just, it's phenomenal growth, and congratulations to, my school, Folsom Junior High, got an A. And so, and Covenant High also moved up a lot. So, yeah,
Junior
yes,
high.
congratulations. My question is about your last slide on the new accountability model. So on the grow part, is it going to be grow, the child grows, or is it going to be they grow to the number the state said they should grow?
So it's not the student value added growth. It is not that. It is, so you have 5 achievement levels. You have advanced, mastery,
Right.
basic, approaching basic, and unsatisfactory. So they're going to take, for example, unsatisfactory, and it's a range of scores, and they're going to cut it in half. So you
Okay.
have a lower end and an upper end.
Okay.
So whichever end a student is in, they're expected to go to the next level. So if they're at their lower end of
okay.
unsatisfactory, they're expected to be somewhere in the upper end. So
Okay,
whether
but
they're
say it was 10 points to get into that next one, they make 9, we get no points for them,
Correct.
even though they grew.
correct.
Okay, that was my
Correct.
question.
So
Thank you.
that's the line, you're drawing a line for
Right.
growth, and that's how they're measuring it.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Kuzan?
Why is it that the new accountability rules are predicted to reduce the scores across the state? Huh?
That is a very complex question. How long you got? No. So one of the big reasons is high schools. Is right now the model, there's a lot that happens at the high school. It's the culminating experience of a K-12 experience because students are preparing for what is. And so you have currently the strength of diploma, which is other experiences, graduation rate, ACT, LEAP. Not saying any model is perfect and everything has pros and cons. This current model is a very significant percentage swing. Right now, if you remember, it was almost like a quadrant because when they were designing that model back in 2018, I was there when the Accountability Commission had meeting after meeting after meeting. It was very important to that commission at that time to keep that high school model as a quadrant. They felt like that was important for high schools to represent all the facets that happen. This model shifts where LEAP is 3/4 of the score, and that is 6 tests that most high school students take either their freshman or sophomore year of high school. So it's just a very, very different thing. And also of English, students only need 1 of the 2 to graduate. And so those are things that play into that model, and it's just a reality of the data coming back that's going to have a significant, and the sad thing is that student performance in what we're doing now could not change at all, but you put it in this new model and it drops substantially in points. The learning and the experience of the students did not change any, but how it's being represented does. And that's why it's going to be important for us to make sure those factors come to light for our stakeholders.
When I was coming up, a long time ago, the concept was to develop the whole child. And sometimes in listening at these new accountability guidelines, it doesn't seem to me that they're actually going to develop the whole child any better than what we were doing. When a system is doing on an old system, so to speak, look at the improvements we made, and if we continue on that way, hey, the sky's the limit. But it's like we're changing in the middle of the stream. So it looks like we're trying to make it harder, or we're trying to make students in some way fail. That's just an opinion that I'm getting on the street, you see? We're not trying to really give the student the, everything that he needs to succeed. What we're doing is trying to bring him down. And I know that's not true. And I know this system will adapt. I know we will adapt, and I know we will score. But what about all those other systems? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kuzan. Ms. Moore?
Here. Very nice. Thank you for the presentation. It was awesome. Can we get a copy of this, or is it? Okay.
I
Thank
believe it's
you.
on board docs, and I can email it to you as well.
Well, I want to first thank our administration, our supervisors, all the teachers, and of course, especially the parents and the students for all their hard work. But they bought into it, and that's very important. And I appreciate, again, the information you've given us. I understand this, and it's so nice to see my school up there, love it. But the students are showing great progress, and this is, again, thank you for everyone. That's the whole child, Mr. Kuzan, the whole child. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. Ms. McCullough?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Peterson. I think my question probably is for you, Mr. Jabbia. I know that you've been serving on the governor's task force.
Yes, ma'am.
And you gave us some results for the different months that y'all met. And I can't remember everything on the report, so I'm asking, was in that report any indication that y'all are requesting the governor to look at these exits and from what I remember it was, but I can't remember exactly what it said.
We did. We asked the governor and the legislature to take a hard look because we need help, because our voices are not being heard. And that was from teachers, that was from administrators, and from superintendents. The key aspects of the entire thing was we're testing kids too much. Social studies and science are very important courses at the early grades, but that doesn't mean that we need to beat them to death with a test. And what's being put on our teachers at all levels, our K-3 teachers that are being dibbled to death, that spoke very well at this task force, and all of our LEAP tested grades. It's taken valuable time, and it's running kids out of public education. So that was the overwhelming message that was given to the task force and to the legislature and to the reps that were on that task force, and our voice is being heard, and they have submitted that to the governor's office in preparation for this next session. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. And Dr. Langlois, in terms of the high schools and this new accountability and comparing it to other school districts that may be performing higher than us now, and who knows what's going to happen after this particular model comes into effect. But with us as a district with 8 high schools, it's very, very difficult to maintain and even grow 1 point, much less what has been accomplished, like, for example, Salmon and many of our other schools in growing a number of points involved in this. So, I just want to point that out, that, we're working with 8 high schools and 8, most of them very, very large high schools in comparison to other districts that so-called are ranked higher than we are. And in terms of that, that's what makes it really difficult for us. I don't think there was a question there,
No,
was it?
I
I'm
don't.
just making a comment.
Just comment,
But
right.
I would think you would probably agree.
Yes,
The
ma'am.
size of our district is a challenge. It is an extreme challenge. And every one of I've said this over and over, every one of our communities are very, very different. Every single one of them are very different. And the people that service those communities and our students are doing a tremendous job, from students with exceptionalities all the way up to our gifted students. So we're truly blessed to have such an amazing teacher and support staff group that do a tremendous job with our kids.
Absolutely. And I, too, just want to say congratulations, and it's just a true picture and a true validation of all the hard work that's going on in this school system. And I really appreciate it, and I know all of these board members do. We really appreciate all the work that's being done. And for most of us, it's over and beyond what is required of them. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. McCollum. Ms. Rutherford?
I'm going to say congratulations. I'm impressed that all the grade levels, 3rd through 8th, have made it on the 1st through 9th rankings in this state. That's huge. Okay. Yeah, I'm in high school. I'm worried about the little kids. Anyway, I know all of it.
There you go.
But I'm really impressed with the 6th grade team who has rocked it in 1st and 2nd across the board, ELA, math, and science.
Studies data back for 3/8.
Right.
So it's not
Well,
that
I'm
it
hoping
wasn't
that
ranked,
they-
it's just
right.
that data didn't happen. So every subject area we got data, they were in the top 2.
So
unbelievable.
I'm so proud of my 6th grade cohorts because I know they worked their butts off. And, but I'm proud of everybody. They've all done a good job. Thank you all so much. I appreciate all of our teachers and all of our students who have worked so hard because I know how difficult it is to get those 6th graders to focus and to do their best.
Thank you,
It's
Ms.
rough.
Rutherford. Ms. Hurstis?
I've been told I like to hear myself talk. So I like to hear myself talk, and I'm going to say something. Yay, Salmon. Yay. Thank you, Ms. Jacobs, for being awesome. I know that we're awesome, and I know that we're going to do our best, just like we always have. I mean, considering, look what we do with all the mandates that we have, that we get bombarded with, that just trickle down from the state and Bessie and everything else. I just want to say on the record that, as usual, Louisiana's backwards. I think this that's coming down the pipe is just backwards with the LEAP and the test. And obviously, Frank, they're not listening. The governor didn't listen to me when I told him to his face that LEAP was a joke, that we should get rid of Bessie, that we're getting bombarded, that the teachers are getting bombarded with tests, that the students are getting bombarded with the test. He didn't listen to me. Governor, if you're watching this video, which I'm sure he probably isn't, but you laughed and you said to me, if I'm not doing what you don't think I'm going to be doing, you're going to be on me. Yeah, I am. And Frank, they're not listening to you. They're not listening to the other supers, and I think that's horrible. The Bessie people should be listening, and they're bringing this down. I can't believe it. I just can't believe it. I think it's backwards. I think it's going to make it more difficult. So anyway, stating it for the record.
Thank you, Ms. Hurstis. All right. Any further comments from the board? All right, thank you so much. All right, at this time, we'll, consideration of an off-campus physical education policy. Ms. Rufino Gallagher is going to make that presentation. Well, motion, I'm sorry.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, got a motion, have a second? Do I have a second? All right, I got a second from Ms. Martin. Any comments from the public? Please come up, state your name again.
So again, I'm Dr. Lori Barthel, and I'm here to advocate for this policy as it allows advanced athletes to earn off-campus PE credit during high school hours, and it would greatly benefit their mental, physical, and academic well-being. Our gymnasts and other elite athletes dedicate countless hours to their craft, exceeding their physical education benchmarks set by the Louisiana Department of Ed, and these athletes have been denied the opportunity to leave school early to attend training despite meeting all these requirements for off-campus PE credit and the precedent of this practice in St. Tammany Parish. There is no policy or law prohibiting them from leaving campus early. Our gymnasts have been approved for off-campus PE, but only outside of school hours, which adds unnecessary strain to their already demanding schedules. Research shows that physical activity enhances not only physical health, but mental health and academic performance. It would give our athletes time for recovery, academic focus, proper rest, essentials for their development and success. The American Public Health Association highlights the link between physical activity and reduced depression, anxiety, better brain function, higher academic achievement, all align with our goals as educators. 31 states allow policies for off-campus PE credit during school hours, with the understanding that it is beyond their scope of expertise and they cannot provide a higher level of physical health engagement for these athletes. Upon my limited research, I have found policies in the state of Texas, Ohio, Florida, Iowa, Utah, New York, and Louisiana, which our current policy is proposed on. We have the power to adopt this policy here in St. Tammany and ensure that these athletes have the support they need to excel. This is more about gymnastics. It is about fostering a win-win for our students' health and education and future. I respectfully urge you to vote in favor for this off-campus PE policy for the well-being of our students, and I thank you for your time and consideration.
Yes, sir. Mr. Osborne?
Brian Osborne, State Tammany Federation President. Good evening again, Board. Just real quick, I looked at this, normally I try to stay in my lane on this sort of thing. It's parent and student policies. But it made me think of that concept of equity and how we use that concept and spread all these playgrounds across every, so if we're doing it over here, we have to do it over there. That was just my notion of this. I know for a fact we did this at Slaughter High when I was here, to accommodate students. That's just my idea of fairness. If we do it in one place, we ought to do it. So I would be in support of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Any other comments from the public?
Hi, Abby McMurdo, Assistant Principal in North Shore High School. I totally agree with both people here in terms of, having kids participate in things that they are passionate about and growing themselves and helping their mental health and all of those things. In addition, I fully support Mr. Osborne and his, striving for equity. But I think we're missing some unintended consequences that this policy could bring up. We have students that participate in off-campus PE in all kinds of sports, hundreds of them. We have students that do theater outside of school, that do music outside of school, that work, sometimes to support their families. And I just worry that if we start opening this up for one sporting activity that we just happen to not be able to accommodate the way that they want us to accommodate it, I'm just concerned that it's going to open kind of a floodgate of things that we won't be able to handle. Not to mention, when we go back to that new accountability model, we can only grow and achieve and thrive our kids when they're on our campus doing what we can offer for them. And this would be taking them off of our campus. And I mean, they're missing a class. And so I just think we should consider all aspects of this policy before we pass it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McMorrow. Any other comments from the public? Dr. Langlois, did you have something you wanted to contribute?
Yes, I'd like to kind of echo what Ms. McMurdo said. There is currently a process for off-campus PE. It is outlined in Bulletin 741, Section 2357, and y'all should have a copy of that, at your chair. That process is very clear. That process has been used by our high schools, is currently being used by our high schools, and students are able to earn credit when they do that extra competitive conditioning and practice and get that credit for that. I'm concerned because there is a process outlined in that bulletin and there is no state law requiring an additional policy. I worry, to Ms. McMurdo's point, that there are unintended consequences. There is the potential to cause confusion instead of clarity with that. And when you're kind of at this crossroads, does it add clarity or does it cause unnecessary confusion? Should you write policy, should you not? Unless it's adding that clarity and adding something extra, I worry if the process is already outlined. That's a big concern for me. This policy goes beyond the scope of Bulletin 741. In the bulletin, you'll notice a student can earn off-campus PE credit for PE1 and PE2. But this policy does not limit it to that. They could go as many PE credits, if we go, when we go to block, up to 8 credits. That is beyond what the actual BESI allows us to do. So that's a big concern. There's a line in the third paragraph of that policy that says that the students do not remain on campus and must be off campus, must leave. I'm concerned, the question, the confusion, the lack of clarity that causes for me is, what if there's a student that is a competitive athlete, but also wants to take a full range of courses and wants to stay on campus? Is this going to make them leave and not be able to do that? I worry. Because right now, with the policy, it goes forth to the principal, and the principal has the discretion of how to support the student. Students that leave campus during the day for an athletic event do so under our supervision. So, for example, we don't have swimming pools at our high schools. So if a swim team needs to practice during the day and has athletic PE, they may leave if that's how the schedule has been designed by the school, but they're with our employees. They're with a school staff member. I did survey all the high schools this year. I was curious, which sports are practicing off campus this year? This year, none. Wrestling, golf, swim are all after school. Last year, North Shore swim team did practice during 7th hour at Crossgates. That varies year to year because it depends on the schedule of Crossgates. This policy is written for athletes. What about non-athletes? Ms. McMurdo brought up the equity issue. So when a student group another student group that's a non-athlete wants to leave school early for another reason, does that going to prompt another policy? And, where does it end? What is Pandora's box? Because, we take the education of our students very seriously, and we pride ourselves in the education we provide our students, and we want them with us, and we will do everything we can to accommodate their needs, but all the while maintaining the integrity and instructional supports of our system. So I'll just kind of.
Thank you, Ms. Langlois. All right, any questions from our board members? Ms. Fauntleroy?
Thank you, Dr. Peterson. When I was reading over this bow is right in my face, I can't see. The term you used had come to my mind, unintended consequences, and that's what I wanted to ask you about. You already laid out some of those after I cued in, because I was concerned. We seem to have done that a couple times as a board. We see a problem, we write a policy to address it, but we don't see that there's an unintended consequence somewhere. So that, thank you for pointing those out. And the other thing that I'm asking for some clarity on, I don't know if it's from Mr. Harrison or from who, but the policy that's proposed, the very last line of it says that, I'm trying to get my thing down, that they're going to follow all the requirements of Bulletin 747, but the very first requirement says permission of the principal. So if we write this policy, we're removing that very component, the permission of the principal, which is part of the law, to me, or that's confusing to me. So I don't know if anyone can address that part of it for me. Like if we have this policy, the policy says the kid can do, go off campus, but then the principal says, no, this doesn't fit our schedule or what's best for the kid, then the answer is no. Then why do we need this policy? Like the law already trumps policy. So why do we need a policy when there's already a law in place? I guess is my question.
The bottom line is you do not need this policy. My office wasn't asked to draft this policy. My office was asked to edit the policy. I incorporated the elements of the regulations that you're reading so that you would follow BESI regulations. And when there is a lack of quality between this, lack of clarity between this policy and the BESI regulations, which take on regulatory laws, then the BESI regulations trump them. So no matter how many times I say this, it's worth repeating that a board, and this is not just this board, this is also very often councils and local government agencies, they are always tasked with the power to write policies that are, quote, not inconsistent with state law, which is ironic because that's a double negative. So you really are saying you can write a policy, but it has to be consistent with state law, period, over and over and over again. So when do you write policy? Number one reason is when the state law tells you to write a policy. So for example, 17:416 is a discipline policy. It flat out answers every question there is you could have about discipline, but in that statute it says local school boards shall write a policy on discipline. So then we get together, we try to cut the law and paste it, doing our best to parallel the law and not create confusion. When it creates confusion in a committee, when I'm looking at the holistic picture, I take it out. Because I know that in the end, the law is going to trump the policy. So specifically, as to this policy, it is bottom line not worth the paper it's written on, because BESI policies trump this policy. BESI regulations do not call for a board policy. If the board writes a policy contrary to law, it will be invalid. And that is in 17:18, and it's also in this board's own policy, ABA. And that is how it works over and over again. I hope I got it right while saying it publicly. So as you contemplate this policy, it's A, not necessary. B, if it's got a typo in it, BESI regs will trump it. C, I do not know why the parents want the policy, because this policy incorporates BESI regs, and BESI regs require the principal's approval. So you got to get the principal's approval and work it out. Why? Because it's a case-by-case administrative issue that needs to be dealt with by the principal and the particular students and their athletes and the schedule and the coaching. I don't know why the board wants the policy to even be reviewed, but I work for the board, so I hope I answered all of your possible questions on this policy.
Thank you, sir. All right, Ms. Baker.
I totally agree. I feel like this sort of policy, when there's a law in place and we, as the board, are not responsible for the day-to-day operations of the school or of PE, I do think it is not particularly a board issue, and I have voiced that. Having said that, I do wish for policy committees so that we can get some sort of understanding of why this parent's request is, first and foremost, and then secondly, why can't we accommodate? And then when you have that sort of back and forth and you can have that appreciation, and then the principal is ultimately responsible. And so I don't think this is a board issue, but I do think it is worth the conversation to say, why is it okay for some principals to allow it and some not? I think that is, a conversation, but it still remains outside of the board's regulation, in my opinion, and that's why I am not in favor of this.
Ms. McCollum?
Thank you, Dr. Peterson. Dr. Langlois, you expressed already many of my reservations about having a policy of this nature. But I have visited with several high school principals about this, And none of them are in favor of this policy, the ones that I have talked to, and even expressed their reasons why. You mentioned some, based on my experience with scheduling, and I do have master schedule experience, by the way, at the high school level. This could turn into a nightmare, and I'm agreeing with the guidance counselor. I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name. This also would, your usage of unintended consequences, and I see many more than you even mentioned, and some of my principals mentioned, to the effect that this could go into all kinds of extra activities that happen with students, hundreds and probably thousands of our students, as we have 37,000, close to 37,000 students. One principal indicated that club sports could start requesting this. And in that case, then that's going to start affecting our own baseball, for example, and volleyball and basketball and all that, if that comes in, if this were to come into effect. There is just dance, and we have cheerleader competitive squads out there that have nothing to do with the schools. I mean, it's just would be, to me, we are opening a Pandora's box that we are not going to be able to handle in any shape, form, or fashion. And the scheduling will get even worse when we implement block scheduling in that aspect. Some other things that were mentioned to me were what happens if this instructor just happens to decide, oh, I'm not going to do this anymore. And, I've got to quit. I'm going to go to another job. Well, what happens with a student? They don't get a credit at all, especially if this happens in mid-semester. Who determines the grades? This is one of my principals was asking, what standards are being met? I know we're doing this already in some instances. I talked with Mr. Alfonso today and Dr. Langlois that these instructors have to be vetted with our system. So we're going to open this up to this massive number of students possibly, and the amount of work that's going to be forced on our administration and principals and guidance counselors, y'all, it's just going to be a nightmare, I think, in my opinion, and that's just my opinion. I do understand that it would be convenient for some students to be able to leave early. I certainly don't like the aspect of this policy of coming in late and leaving early. And we do have a short day system for seniors already in place. I don't want to just go on and on. I do understand from the parents' perspective of what they're looking for. As Ms. Baker mentioned, it is a little, I understand by the law that it's the principal's decision, but it is a little iffy if one principal saying it's okay and then parents at another school here that they can't do this. Maybe we need to look into that a bit. I'm not sure, but I don't think we need a policy on this at all. Thank you.
Ms. Gallagher?
Ms. Langlois, just for the record, so everybody's clear, a student can earn, as we have 7 classes now, so there are some gymnasts who have earned a P credit, so an 8th hour of credit, it was after school. So the person that they went to is not a teacher of the St. Tammany Parish School System, but that person was vetted. This person could be, if they wanted to start a gymnastics team, this person would be vetted as a coach, and that has already happened.
If they've gotten off campus, yes. So we have to send the qualifications into the state, and they tell us yay or nay. But, it's all outlined. But, yes, as long as they have those qualifications and the state says, and they spend the instructional minutes with them, they are aligning to the standards required by PE, which, most competitive sports, do. And they submit attendance and grade documentation back to the school, and that gets sent to the state. Yes, they can earn the credit. And that already happens. That has been in place. Our high schools do accommodate, all of our students when they have that request, and they're trying to do it with a qualified instructor. Yes,
Right,
ma'am.
okay, I just wanted to clarify that,
Yeah.
that's how the grades happen, that's how the attendance happens,
Correct.
that is done. I do see both sides of this coin, and I know I brought it up, and people have been like, it's not a board policy, blah, blah, but these parents are asking, and this is why it is here. For all the things that were mentioned, basketball, soccer, softball, baseball, whatever, 90% of the high schools in St. Antonio Parish offer those sports. This is particularly right now, I know it's written for all sports, but this particular group is gymnastics. There's no gymnastics facility in St. Tammany Parish for public schools. Am I correct on that?
No, they're.
No,
I
no,
mean-
in the public schools, like for the public school system.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, schools have teams, but like you're
But
talking like
it's a place to
tumbling
practice,
facility.
right? There's no gym, there's no bars, there's no
like
balance
there's no
beam.
swimming pools, yeah.
Right. So they go to cross gates or whatever. Well, there's not enough of these gymnasts at specific high schools for an entire class, obviously. So this is the reason that these parents are asking for this policy. So whether it be a policy or not, I do think that whether it's been said to you or not, or whatever, I know it has been done in the past. And I'm pretty certain it's done this year. I'm not saying that, and Mr. Favre, I'm gonna throw you under the bus because you're sitting right in my eyesight. You could have called him, and he could have been like, oh no, and then have been like, hey, don't ever take those kids off campus again, because they know now. You know what I'm saying? Like, anything can happen. So I think the concern is that if Mr. Favre, because 741 says he can make that decision, but if, no offense, Ms. McMurdo, if Ms. McMurdo says no, then the parent's concerned it's not fair. Just because Mr. Favre says, yeah, that's fine, go ahead. But Ms. McMurdo's like, no, we don't want that liability, responsibility. It's going to be too much. We want to open Pandora's box. And Mr. Favre's like, bring on Pandora. I got this. So I think that is the main concern. There's two, is one, all the other sports that people have mentioned, we can give that to them in St. Tammany Parish Public Schools. This is the one sport we cannot give them in St. Tammany Parish Public Schools. Now, I know it is said nobody goes off campus, but for those that do, because I know a gymnast who did go off campus for PE, there's got to be more than just Mr. Jabian might send a memo that says, hey, nobody's going off campus for PE. Because then Mr. Favre's like, oh, that was dated this date, but next year, I'm like, he didn't send me a memo this year, so I'm gonna go ahead and let Mr. Hurstis go off campus. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's got to be something written. It's got to be fair across the board to the extent of, I know life is not fair. I'm 100% in agreement, life is not fair. An argument to say, because I want my kid home at 7 o'clock every night for dinner is not a fair statement. My kids aren't home at 7 o'clock either. But I think they're looking for something to where everything else is offered. They can have a gymnastics team at a school, but we can't provide them a facility to do it. And they're asking to do it during school hours, and we're telling them no. But baseball can practice during 7th hour for some of them. Football can do conditional training during 7th hour. Basketball can start practice early. Dance team has 7th hour PE all year long. That is their concern, is they are not getting, because we don't have anything in the parish to do it. I'm not saying go build a gym. I'm not saying that. So, but I think those are the concerns of what they have. And I think they don't see the fairness because, again, some schools do and some schools don't. So I don't know if that's something that has to come down from the superintendent to the administration. But I see both sides, I do. But it's my job to let the constituents bring stuff to us, and that is what I'm doing.
And look, and you and I, and the parents have had that conversation about the consistency. And can't speak to what was done 10 years ago, but I can speak to now and that consistency that we are making sure it's happening. And in terms of, gym to practice in, it's my understanding that there's a fondness for a particular gym. I think they could, schools could provide access to maybe another gym, but I don't know that in this particular case that is desirable. And so I can say our high schools do work really hard to accommodate our students in every way, shape, or form. And so I agree wholeheartedly. We have got to make sure that we are meeting our needs and providing our opportunities, totally. But I do think that in this case, it may be like there's more demands than we are able to meet because of certain factors that are beyond our control.
Swim is another one of those. Look, as a former Division I athlete in this parish that played multiple sports and a father of a Division I swimmer that swam doubled 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, because I brought her. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, doubled morning and afternoon, and every Saturday morning and every Tuesday and Thursday, every afternoon, and the time to put in, and no one loves athletes more than I love athletes. We have to make sure that we provide proper supervision. As a former principal at North Shore High School, my swim team always practiced off campus. We don't have a pool, but they always traveled with our coaches and our faculty representatives that took roll, that held them accountable, that made sure they were there, and we've done that for all our athletes. We don't have, most of our schools don't have batting facilities, for instance. So baseball in off-season may have traveled, or softball with their coach and their faculty rep may have traveled to an off-campus batting facility at times. They've done that. But we have not relinquished those controls during the school day to non-faculty members off our campus, and that has not happened under my regime. So it's about making sure that there is equity. I'm telling you right now that the private trainers, private athletic trainers are lined up, ready to take on kids. And we're going to have students that leave their high school and say, I'm not going to athletic PE. I'm going to work with my private trainer, and then I'll come back and play with the high school team. That's going to happen. And they are lined up because guess what? You're going to pay them to do so. And parents are willing to put that money in for private trainers, private dance, private tumbling, private whatever. That is out there and available and ready to go. We want to make sure that we're consistent. And I'm not going to grant, and neither is one of our principals going to grant, people to go off campus that are not gone with a faculty rep or a faculty coach that works at that school. And that's where we are, and that's where we have been.
Mr. Jabbia, at this time, please vote.
I need Ms. Hurst and Mr. Burrow to vote.
I'm thinking about it.
Okay. Ms. Hurst.
Okay, Ms. Hurstis.
Fails. 1 yea, 11 nays.
1 yea, 11 nays, motion fails. This time, we'll go to the public comments.
3 minutes.
3-minute public comments. Mr. Brant Osborne.
Thank you, Chairman Peterson. Dr. Peterson, your comments at the last board meeting made me realize we both worked for Billy Percy. I didn't realize. I knew you took over the reins, so but I appreciate your comments and sharing that quote. I heard him say that same thing to me, so thank you. Sure. I did want to celebrate the board. I mentioned, maybe rethinking old policies that you folks inherited. Fixing the ability of people to provide public comment who might be running late in traffic, that was huge. Although I did see Mr. Locker miss the cut last time by 1 minute, but can't be perfect. But also the ability of 2 board members to bring an agenda item, just completely change things. And, even though it didn't go the way the parents may have wanted, I appreciate you listening to constituents and bringing that forward. And that was a nice exchange. I did want to elaborate further what I meant. in terms of, block scheduling and the board just empowering itself to have its voice be heard, because you represent so many voices, but also other constituents. I do think we need to pump the brakes on block schedule. Caddo Parish, as I mentioned, in 2013, their board voted 11-1 to go back to the 7-period day, and they have shifted since then. But their rationale was to save $3 million. So I'm hearing tonight that we're not going to add more teachers, but that doesn't seem to math to me. So I got to trust but verify. I would like to see the numbers on that before we make this decision that does impact not just high schools, but every, K through 12 is leading in that direction. The bond issue, does that tech education center require block to work? And if that's the case, does that handcuff the board moving forward if the public sours on the idea of this model, which could happen, and it's happened elsewhere? And also, if it is a cost-saving measure, would you be able to do that without leaving an empty building or being forced to sell it for a song? I just would like to see more with this. Also, the payroll cost for that building, if that becomes a reality, how many teachers in an ideal setting? I know it was said that we have to see what it's going to look like, but in an ideal world, how many teachers will you employ? How many school employees? Will there be an SRO? Will there be a registered nurse? Will there be one administrator, two administrators? I estimate $2.5 million in recurring payroll, and that's just me kind of throwing some numbers out there, but that's a cost we need to consider, and I don't think the financial impact has been discussed. So I don't think it's a financially, fiscally responsible measure to just force these things through. I do think we need a little bit more time. I appreciate you, and drive safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Ms. Lee Barrios? All right, thank you. Well, with no other presidential announcement. All right, Mr. Burrow, I'm sorry.
There will be a Christmas reception featuring Slidell High School Choir beginning at 5:30 p.m. prior to the board meeting on Thursday, December 12th. And everybody, you've seen an email. At the next meeting, we're going to try to approve the superintendent's evaluation and his goals. So you're reminded that you should look at those and draft any new requirements you think are appropriate prior to tomorrow. And then we'll have a special session after the December 12th meeting to approve that. Thank you. That's it.
Meeting's adjourned.